I was pretty excited when I got this Hot Wheels Redline Vega Bomb casting. Even though it's in rough shape and it's missing its interior, it came out originally in 1975 and was designed by Larry Wood, and I knew what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to do a tribute to possibly one of the most famous funny car drag racing drivers out there, Jim Lieberman, Jungle Jim. And those who are familiar with Jungle Jim probably also familiar with Jungle Pam. Now you see, I love the logo. I love the livery. Jungle Jim, obviously, other than the fact that he was a fantastic racer, there's just something about the design on the side of the car with the with Jim swinging from a vine like Tarzan that I love. And I figured if I used the basics from that livery and kind of going along with the way the original Vega Bomb was here, there wasn't a lot of detail to it. And basically, there were the tampos on the side that said Vega Bomb. Well, I figured I could do the same with this, putting the Jungle Jim and the swinging Jim on a vine on the sides and put the Jungle Jim across the hood. And some of his cars had more, sponsor symbols on them and things like that. But some of them were pretty stripped down. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep this simple. I haven't been doing a lot of builds lately. I've just had a lot going on. And I was excited to do this one. And I knew I needed to create a custom decal set for it. And I knew definitely that's what I wanted to do with this casting. Now, I put it through the usual process of, taking it apart. This one didn't have any posts because of the hinged back. And as you saw earlier, I just ground down part of the hinge. I'm not going to do anything fancy to put this back together because I still don't have a replacement interior for it. I'm hoping to find one at some point. But throw it in the citrus strip, get the paint off of it, do as you see here, file it down. Once I have it ready to paint, I throw it in the isopropyl alcohol, wipe that off. You see me do it quite possibly hundreds of times, or maybe this is the first time if you're new to my videos. But it's the process I usually follow. And didn't do anything differently on this one. I looked at different cars that Jungle Jim had driven, and Vega obviously being the direction I was leaning on this. But I did look at what he drove and the colors, and there was like a red version. But I went with the blue, hit it with Color Shot White Primer. Then I went with Testors Extreme Lacquer Deja Vu. That's the blue, or Deja Blue, excuse me. And then once the decals and all were on there, I went over it with the clear sealer. Now, like I said, here you see it after I painted it. I did have to come up with the white toner decals. And I'm kind of flashing those at the top of the screen. There you see the swinging by a vine Jungle Jim. And the Deja Blue paint came out wonderfully. The Testors Extreme Lacquer paints are a pleasure to use. And much more so than, than doing the two-part white toner decals. But, what was I going to do? That's what I wanted on this car. So I designed them. I basically captured some images online, created the decals. They aren't perfect for the body design. There you can see how much more the vines should show on the side, but it still works. And I cut those as it dries and fit them under the wheel well there. So it still looks good. It looks the way I wanted it to look. Now, keeping in the theme of the original Vega Bomb 2, I don't paint additional details on this. I don't paint in headlights, taillights, anything like that. Just went for the basics. This is a Redline Restomod. And so I do keep the red lines. I didn't want to switch to other wheels on this. And so it was just a matter of cutting off these old wheels. These were the ones that the axles go all the way through the wheel itself. I do end up obviously replacing these with new Redline wheels. And those of you that have seen me fight the hot swap bearings before are going to get to see me fight them again. And fortunately, I don't make you suffer through all of that. But I do like showing that I am able to get them on the thing. And here's where the struggle begins. The base I didn't do anything fancy with. I did go over it with, I ended up going over it with a wire wheel and then a buffing wheel. Just trying to clean it up a little. I'm not painting it. I'm sure as heck not going to paint it silver. I wanted it just to be stripped down. The hot swap bearings that you see there, I don't know why I have so many problems with them. Once they're on, I'm thrilled with them. It's just my fumbling fingers don't do a great job of getting them on there. But I do get them on there, as you can see here. And then it's just a matter of putting the bearing wheels on over that. They work wonderfully. It's perfect for this kind of situation where you're replacing Redline wheels as well. I don't think there'd be really an easier way to do it. I've done it a variety of ways in the past. I've printed my own bearings in the past. But I do like doing it with the hot swap bearings, and those are still the original axles that are on there. I did not replace the axles. I just cleaned it all up a little bit. So, once that's ready, and it rolls, once that's ready, there's not much to this. Like I said before, I'm not refastening the body on yet. I drop it on, and when I ground down the hinges, or the hinge in the back, I kept it so it's a little bit snug. That's the best way I can describe it. So when I go to put the base on, part of it is making sure you line it up right, but then it does pop into place. There's enough of that back hinge still there that I had to force it to get it in there. And then once it popped on, I was good. It's holding. And so that's it. There's not a lot to it. So there you see the original Vega Bomb. Man, that it couldn't be much more worn than that, I guess, if it tried. Both sides and the roof are just worn to heck. I could have done a straight restoration on it, I suppose. It just wasn't tempting to me. Doing a Jungle Jim version of this was a lot more appealing. And so knowing I could do my own decals for it, I thought, why not? And it's fun doing a tribute to a famous driver like this that, maybe a lot of people don't know about him, and maybe this gets him a little more exposure, and maybe people will Google him. And, and another thing that one of the reasons I wanted to do it is because he passed away at such a young age. As I recall, he ran into like a transit bus. It was a car accident, but it wasn't racing. It was on city streets where he ran into a transit bus, as I recall. And he was almost 32 when he passed away. So he's a really young guy. So it's a tragic story. But it feels good to do a tribute like this. So there you have it. I'm hoping to find an interior to drop into this at some point, but until then, I'm still pretty darn happy with it. So I hope you like how this turned out. And maybe this gets you to Google Jungle Jim and find out more. Everybody, thanks for watching these videos. Stay safe and healthy out there. I'll catch you in the next one.